Hey there, and thanks for joining ViewPoint for another Monday Moment. At ViewPoint, we've been helping families meet their Christian education goals since 1984. I'm Dr. Adam Rondeau, and today we're going to discuss the idea of why at ViewPoint failure is not an option. Stay tuned. In April of 1970, the Apollo 13 mission took off to go to the moon. And they intended to land on the moon and do some experiments, etc. However, their journey was cut short to the moon. They never actually made that landing because after a couple days into their mission, into their journey, an oxygen tank exploded. And they messaged back to NASA down in Houston, gave that famous saying from that spacecraft, "Houston, we have a problem." Well, obviously there was a problem. And of course, we know the end of the story. They were rescued and everything went successfully. But some of the things that happened behind the scenes were quite fascinating. At the time, the space deck commander, the space deck leader in Houston, was a guy named Gene Kranz. Gene Kranz got all of the smart guys in NASA together after this tragedy had begun. And he got them all in a room and he looked at them. And the first thing he said to them was, "Failure is not an option. Failure is not an option." And those very smart people all over NASA were able to put their heads together and come up with a solution to help safely return the men on that spacecraft back to Earth, alive and well. It's amazing what they could do with duct tape. Those are the two main ingredients for fixing the problem that they had, and gave birth to MacGyverisms all over the world. But duct tape and cardboard, amazing, right? Well, we take a similar approach here at ViewPoint Christian Academy in regards to our academics, right? Because we don't allow failure. We just don't allow it. In fact, students never actually fail a unit of their schoolwork. They don't. They will redo it until they know it, but we don't allow them to say, "Oh, you failed it, let's move you on." Now, conventional schools, many group setting schools, that's what they do. I'm sorry, you got to keep up with the rest of the group. But because of our individualized approach, we are able to ensure mastery of the academics by the students. And in order to do that, we've established a benchmark. We've established a minimum of 80% for a unit. Now, in PACES, if they're doing the paper booklet, that 80% will be the total of their grade on the final test, right? In Ignitia, we weighted it a little bit differently. In Ignitia, the final unit grade is based off of 5% value of it is from the lesson grades, 5% value is from the quiz grades, 10% of the value is from the project grades, and the other 80% of the value comes from the final test grade. And all of that together in an Ignitia unit must equal 80% or better in order for the student to move on and demonstrate the mastery that they need. The same thing with a PACE test. In order for a student to go from one PACE to the next, they must demonstrate mastery. They must demonstrate that they've learned it. Our approach allows for this, our individualized approach. It allows for the student to go on, not having to worry about keeping up with the group, not having to worry about doing that. They are learning at their own rate. They've been assigned curriculum in every area. They have been assigned their curriculum to where they are and what they are needing to learn, and they progress from there because learning is happening, not just time on a clock. It's not a clock ticking. Oh, you put in your time, move on, or you don't move on. No. Learning is the constant. Time is the variable. Now, for some students, it takes more time to learn some things. For other students, it takes less time, and they just accelerate on through. And that is part of our mastery approach. But again, we don't allow failure. It's just not an option. So what if, maybe you're thinking, so what if my child fails a test? What if my child doesn't pass a unit? What if my child keeps getting below the minimum score for a quiz and has to keep redoing it, or below the minimum score for a lesson and has to keep redoing it, etc.? So what if that happens? Exactly. So what? So what if that happens, right? It gives what do those things do? The tests, the quizzes, the lessons, etc. What do they give? They give an accurate assessment, and they reveal what the child does and does not know. It reveals what has been or has not been learned. It's not a failure. It's not. It's an opportunity to ensure mastery. It's an opportunity to ensure mastery. So let's talk about this for a second. All right, let's just take a second and talk about this. So how can I make, this is an interesting question. How can I make the most of my child's fail? Wait a minute. What kind of question is that, right? That's kind of a, what do you mean? How can I make the most of my child's fail? Well, I wrote down a few things. Let's talk about some of these things. Number one, you can use it to pinpoint study habits. To pinpoint study habits. You know, if a quiz is being failed repeatedly, it really is most often indicative of the fact that the student isn't thoroughly digesting the material. If they keep on failing their checkups, then they weren't doing their work before their checkup well. If they keep on failing the quiz, then they're not getting into the lesson what they need to get into it. They're not getting out of it what they need to. They're not really thoroughly, maybe they're just looking for answers, not really even reading the material, skipping over the videos, skipping over the this, that, or the other thing. Ensure the quality of the work and encourage the child. Look, you're not going to be able to pass this until you do what you need to do in the lesson or in the work material. So let's focus every day on that. So pinpoint study habits, right? Areas that might need to be improved. And when they do fail, you can have them go back and learn or relearn. Maybe they never learned it because they didn't pay attention, or maybe they need to relearn it. They forgot something. Relearn the material. And those quizzes, those checkups are like mini tests. They say, okay, how are we doing? Let's check and see how things are going. And then when they get to that final test, if all of that work in the process has been done properly, if they're getting the passing grades, if they're getting all of their, whether you're doing Ignition or PACES, right? Everything has to be correct. If you get something wrong in your PACE, you mark it wrong, you go back, you fix it until it's correct. If you do the same thing in Ignition, you do it until it's what? Until it is correct. That's important. You have to, right? You have to ensure mastery by following these steps. So another thing you can do is use it to develop study habits, particularly note-taking skills. When it comes, especially in particular to our Ignition courses, there is a direct correlation between good note-taking skills and good grades on a test. If a student knows how to take good notes, particularly if they get something wrong in the quiz, they should be writing it down, going back, looking it up, finding the answers. They really need to demonstrate it. I know we allow them to pass with an 80, but even if they get an 80, they need to go back and look over that material and see what they got wrong. Write it down. Take good notes so they can get the correct answers in their mind. That's why we want them to correct it, right? If you're working with a PACE, we want them to go back and correct it again until it's exactly right. Why? Because we want them to learn the right thing, not the wrong thing, right? We don't want to learn the wrong things. We want to learn the right things. And when we learn the right things, it comes out better, especially on the testing. So develop good note-taking skills. Also, you can use it to pinpoint specific difficulties. Let's say they're doing a math or a language arts or an English a PACE or unit, and they're having trouble with one particular concept. Right? They did really well in the whole test, but they bombed this section on fractions, or they just had so much difficulty when it came to adjectives, and that resulted in a score below 80. Well, obviously, we know what do we need to master. We need to go back and pinpoint that. So we can even use that as an opportunity to pinpoint. If you're working in a quiz or something like that, in Ignition even, look at what's wrong. If it's a pattern, say, oh, you're getting these kinds of things wrong all the time. Go back and review and relearn. It's an opportunity to pinpoint specific difficulties and correct them before you get too much further. All right. Also, and then this is the final step. All right, on this Monday moment, use anytime there's a failure, quote unquote, right? Use that as an opportunity to build character. To build character. You know, building character is the hardest work that a parent or a teacher will ever do. It's the hard, nitty-gritty work of every day. Teaching math, it's a piece of cake compared to imparting character and teaching character into the life of a young person, because that is constant, everyday, nitty-gritty getting your hands dirty, just saying, okay, let's get this done. You can't. This is the area, moms and dads, where you cannot be weary in well doing. You will reap in due season, but you can't get tired of building character into the life of your student, into the life of your child. It's hard work, right? It's a whole lot easier just to try to teach them a math skill than it is to try to teach them that life skill, that character. Well, use a fail as an opportunity to build character, all right? We want our students to have the character, the mentality that they will never accept defeat, but they will always rather seek to be an overcomer. Never go down in defeat. Always go down in victory, right? That should be the mentality of every believer. That should be the mentality of every Christian. In the book of Revelation, Jesus' message to the churches was, to him that overcomes will I, and he gives a list of rewards to the overcomer. We want our students to be overcomers. We don't want to allow them to say, oh, I surrender, I give up. No, we want them to be determined. We want them to be perseverant. We want them to be diligent and never give up until the job is done. Use it as an opportunity to build character. Stay positive. Look, if they fail it, it's not the end of the world. It's really not. Sometimes people get so upset. Oh, my child got a 79.5. Yeah, okay. They did. Is that passing? No. Does that mean they need to go back? Yes. It's not the end of the world. That's the beauty of our system. We're not going to get any more learning gaps. We're going to learn what we need to learn. We're going to progress. We're going to build on a good, solid, strong foundation. Don't let a fail become a tragedy in the home. Now, if the child is continually failing with the same results because of a lack of character, they refuse to go back and do what they need to do. Issue appropriate discipline. Take necessary steps. It's not necessarily going to be pleasant, but don't allow a fail to be the end all. No, it's not. There is no failing. That is not an option. We're going to keep going till we get it. And these students are going to learn, and they're going to learn a lot this year. The Lord is going to bless them, and the Lord is going to bless you as you do the hard work of helping to build character into their lives and helping them to develop a good, solid, strong academic foundation. If this was a blessing to you, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let a friend know. Maybe you know somebody who's not a part of ViewPoint, but some of the things that are going on in our Monday moments, hey, maybe it'll be helpful to them. Share up the video, send it to them. Share our video on Facebook, whatever you want to do. We want this to be a blessing. We want this to be a help to somebody and an encouragement to them. If you need anything, pick up the phone, give us a call, send us an email. We're here to help you. We want to be a blessing to you. Have a great day.